Okay, welcome everyone to um, the Facebook and Instagram for Business um, webinar presented by the South Georgia Bay Small Business Enterprise Center and Digital Main Street. My name is Ben Frisch. I'm your South Georgia Bay Digital Service Squad representative, and I'm going to be running the webinar. We're going to kick it off right now, and I just shared a link in the chat box there for all of the slides that you're going to see today. So you'll see that I'm sharing a lot of video content and other resources. So all those links in that PDF are in there, and it's going to be a great add-on to this presentation to keep the learning going. So I'm going to share my screen here. And here we go. So again, yeah, if you haven't heard about Digital Main Street, just a recap, this is a Ontario-wide program. My role is as a Digital Service Squad representative is to help promote this program that's really geared towards digital transformation of Main Street. I mean, the original focus was Main Street business and their digital marketing. And that was mainly because of a grant component. But especially now with everything going on with the pandemic and a lot of businesses struggling, you know, we're really kind of trying to help anyone and everyone. So if you do have any questions, need help, support with your digital marketing, my contact information is here. You can also follow us, the Small Business Enterprise Center on Instagram, and myself, BFresh Media, on Instagram as well. So it's a free service, and again, just here to help provide as much support as we can in this time of need. So today, you know, I didn't want to call this specifically social media. I wanted to stick with Instagram and Facebook. And the reason being, I mean, one, we only have so much time. So Facebook and Instagram are two of the most popular social media platforms. They offer some of the best advertising abilities and platforms there. So for most businesses, you know, Facebook and Instagram is a great place to start, either one or the other or both. And you know, if you are in a particular business that it doesn't work for you, which is some, definitely reach out and you know, we can chat more about your options when it comes to what social media platform you should be on. And when it comes to choosing a social media platform, I mean, the main reason that these are so effective, again, is because of audiences. Typically, I mean, because the interest level is so broad, the audiences are so broad, you can usually find the audience that's right for your business. And so that brings us to kind of really the first place that you should start when it comes to social media and setting up your profiles. Even if you are set up, you know, it's good to kind of maybe take a step back and think about who is your audience. So I will point out this is directly from the Digital Main Street training material that is still available and free from digitalmainstreet.ca. But so customer personas is a big part of developing campaigns and figuring out, you know, who it is you're trying to speak to, and how do you speak to them in a way that is going to really pique their interest and get people to follow you, get people to engage with your brand. This is a really key step. So if you can't see that, you know, we're talking about just kind of creating this profile of a ideal customer. So, you want to think about and answer questions um, like what are some of their demographics, age, income, their education, where are they located, some of their values and their goals, and even personality traits, strengths and interests. You really want to try and dive as deep as you can into, who are these people and what do they like? And it's going to really help you in crafting your messaging and your content to speak to these people. And you might not just have one buyer persona, you might have multiple, right? You might have like seniors or someone middle-aged. Every business is different, and there's sort of a customer profile that best matches yours. And a good place to start, I will add too, is to look at some of your existing customers. You could even send out surveys and kind of poll people to try and gather this information to put this together. So with that in mind, we can, look at getting started with Facebook. So, so just putting together some important things to note about Facebook profile that sometimes people miss. A lot of times it's about just the details. So making sure that your logo is visible and good quality. There's now a short name that you can use, kind of like an Instagram username that you create. It's an at whatever your business name is. The header is able to incorporate video. So if you have some video that you can use in the header, it's a great way to just capture people's attention. It's a lot more dynamic than just a static photo. You want to fill in all of your about info. And, that seems obvious as well, but I come across it a lot of times. There's just, often something missing. And we mentioned this last week in our SEO webinar as well, that it's really important that about info, especially, the contact details, the address, all matches everything else that's out online in your other profiles on your website, so that like Google will appreciate that. Your SEO will thank you for that. Another thing that people often forget or don't realize is that there's a menu on the left-hand side of your Facebook page. And you can customize that quite easily. I see a lot of times, a Facebook page will have tabs, they're called, in that menu that are left empty, or they don't relate to the business. So there's one that's like community, or if you don't have any videos, I recommend that you do have videos, but if you don't yet, you can remove those tabs until they become necessary or appropriate. So definitely check that out. And so you can find that under settings, templates, and tabs. And it's really easy to click and drag to reorder them. You can add new ones, you can remove ones that you don't need. And to me, that's a really helpful tip, because I see a lot of times menus that don't really quite make sense. And so you can really shift the focus for your audience. If you want people to focus on your shop, you can put your shop right at the top of that menu, which is helpful. So speaking of shops, if you are doing e-commerce or looking at e-commerce as a possibility, which right now is understandable, you can add a shop to your Facebook page. So as you can see, I've linked out to a video. So again, I've kind of curated some content here that will really go into depth about how to actually do that. But just to give you an idea, I mean, I spoke about adding products to your Google My Business listing last week. And this feature is sort of similar in that, you know, you can upload a photo, upload a description and the price, and you can link directly from that product to your e-commerce platform. So they can't necessarily buy through Facebook, but there's sort of two options. You can have people message you to set up payment and delivery, or you can link to your e-commerce platform. So it's kind of great in that there is an option if you don't have that e-commerce set up. If you're more, you know, low key, you're just selling items via messenger, email, e-transfers, whatever, then this can still be an option. Now, I will add, you know, just like Google My Business, it is a little, you know, it's kind of time consuming. You have to go one product at a time. And you don't, I wouldn't necessarily recommend, you know, uploading hundreds of pieces of inventory. I mean, you could, but oftentimes I find, you know, this is a good way to entice people into your e-commerce platforms to, you know, it can be a good place to just put some of your best sellers, your most high demand items, just to get people sort of through the door to see what else you're offering. So we've covered kind of Facebook basics. Here's where we can get a little bit more technical if you want to. So Facebook Business Manager, if you haven't had experience with it, I mean, most people have not. They typically will go through Facebook, you know, through their personal account, and they'll click the link to their pages on the left-hand side and manage their page from like what is more of a public-facing interface. But Facebook also has this tool called Business Manager. And what Business Manager is for, I mean, not to scare anyone away, but it's great for especially people who have multiple Facebook pages and multiple ad accounts. It can get super, super technical, but I find it's also just really effective, even if you're just doing, you know, a single Facebook page and a single ad account. It's a great tool for a lot of reasons. It is a little hard to explain. I mean, like, even so, all that technical stuff aside that it can do, just from a user standpoint, I find the accent, like making posts and working with my page via the business.facebook.com interface, just to be a lot more professional and user friendly. Because I think what they've done is, you know, when you use that the typical facebook.com route, everything's just more geared towards the users and not necessarily the business owners. So by that I mean, you know, the buttons are just bigger and flashier, and when you see the difference, it's like, oh, this one's just like, it's pure business. And I don't know if that makes sense, but I really love the reliability. I think is a big part. You know, I always know where things that I can find when I use the Business Manager. And so this link here, this is actually like a much longer video. This is about a 45-minute video that will actually take you through step-by-step of how to, oh no, sorry. This one is 12 minutes. We'll walk you through how to set up Business Manager and set up an ad account. So really simple process to get you set up. It's probably best if you have your Facebook page and your personal Facebook account already established, and then you're essentially just connecting the dots when you set up your Business Manager account. But yeah, so again, this video, a great resource to help anyone with that process. This video is the long one. So Facebook Ads Manager is a component to the Business Manager. And the reason I want to talk about this is that, you know, a lot of people, when they advertise on Facebook, they just click the boost button, right? And so, and go through, again, it's more of the public facing kind of interface that's very limited in what you can do with it. And so when you flip over to the Ads Manager platform, this gives you just way more flexibility and options when it comes to developing campaigns and building ads that you can post. You know, you can have those ads show on Facebook, on Instagram, and you can see from this diagram, this image, this is from just the startup kind of screen, where they're really asking a lot more questions, even right off the top, right? So what is your marketing objective? And that's, again, what I like about this platform. You know, they're taking that into consideration. When you just hit the boost button, it's a little bit less technical in terms of what are you trying to achieve. And so at the end of the day, you know, it's most important, like, we consider what it is that we're trying to achieve, so that, you know, it plays through the whole ad. So we're talking about, you know, are you just looking for brand awareness? If you want to expand your reach, are you looking for traffic, engagement, even app installs if you are an app developer? Are you just looking for video views, lead generations, messages, or are you actually trying to convert people into online sales or store traffic? So by clicking, you know, what the option that's right for you and what you're trying to achieve, it's going to take you through a lot of different options for developing campaigns that are going to help you achieve those objectives. So again, the video there, it's lengthy, and this video also takes you through how to set up your Business Manager. That's where they start. So it's very thorough. That's why it's quite long. But I wanted to include the other one as well, in case you want to just do the quick 12-minute, here's how to set up the manager and then play around with it. But this one is quite extensive. We'll go through a lot of detail with Ads Manager and everything. Oh, and I wanted to just a caveat. I noticed whenever you start watching YouTube videos about how to set up Facebook ad accounts and things like that, you will start to see a lot of advertising from those people who want you to get rich quick, and they're going to bombard you, but it's for a good cause. So keep fighting the good fight and plugging away at that. There's a ton of information there to learn. So so moving on to Instagram. Again, you know, just from a basic standpoint, talking about setting up the profile, the details are really, really important. I notice a lot of times when it comes to, you have very little space for your description. And what I see a lot of times is that a lot of businesses, they just sort of assume that people know where they're located. And that's not always the case. And so I think it's really important for businesses who are focused on a local audience to put where they are in the description, so that people are aware of, oh, okay, this business is local, like I'm a potential customer kind of thing. Whereas if you don't mention it, they might have to go searching, looking on the website, and it can be kind of confusing. So that's just one thing I notice a lot. The third thing is to actually, before I go to the business account, with the description as well, it's also important to think about a call to action. So there is a link for your website or blog that you can include in your profile at the top. And you really want to consider in the description giving people a reason to click on that link. So whether or not it's your latest blog post or, shop now, here's where you can find more information. It's just good to think about, giving people a reason to click that link. So number 3 is to make your Instagram account a business account. So this is going to open up a lot of different features for that make it possible for your Facebook account to connect to your Instagram account. Is one of the more important reasons to do that. It gives you a lot of features and functionality with regards to messaging and managing all of your content. One interesting thing too, I don't know if a lot of people use Instagram on their desktop. I know I do, and so I use Instagram on my desktop a lot of times for just trying to keep up on some of the likes and the comments and liking other profiles and connecting with other Instagram accounts. And I was always frustrated because, you still can't post a photo from the desktop version, but you, up until recently, could not send direct messages, which was incredibly frustrating. But they have actually added that feature just in the last week or two, I think. So that is pretty awesome, I think. Another thing that the business account will do, if you're using scheduling software, most scheduling software, I think all scheduling software, will not all scheduling software will not allow you to schedule posts in advance without a business account. It has something to do with the security on it. And so when you don't have a business account and you try and schedule your posts, they will just give you a notification on your phone, and you have to still go and finalize the post, and it's not a user-friendly experience at all. So there's a link here to a video, again, just about how to step-by-step make your account a business account. And I highly recommend that you do that. Another reason is analytics. There's a lot of more analytic data that you will receive when you're set up as a business account. And so I just had a question too about, there's a couple of questions. So just jumping back to Facebook page setup via personal account, can you switch it over to a Facebook Business Manager? And yes, you can connect the two. Like I said, I think it's better if you set it up prior to the Business Manager. It might be easier. How one reposts videos. So when it comes to Instagram, there are repost apps that you can download. So it's not a functionality that exists within Instagram to repost someone else's content. It is a third-party app that you have to download. So if you do a quick Google search, you can find other apps that will do that. There's a couple. Repost app, I think, is one that I use. And then finally, using hashtags. I mentioned this also in our photography webinar. We talked about using hashtags, and I'll say the same thing that I said there, which was, there's a lot of recommendations. You'll hear times of use 30, I think that's the maximum you can use. I don't necessarily recommend that. So think about your audience, right? So if your audience is global and if you're selling products all around the world and you don't care where people see your brand, or you should care, but if having that global exposure is something that you're going after, then definitely using a lot of hashtags will work to your benefit. However, if you're focused on more of a local audience, then stuffing your Instagram photos full of hashtags is not going to necessarily work to your benefit in terms of targeting a more local audience. So you want to think about local hashtags, or hashtags that your audience is using. I think that's the biggest tip that I can give there. So if your audience is more local and they're using a local hashtag, I know one, for example, that I've seen lately has been Collingwood Strong, and that kind of thing. So it's localized in that it's the name of a town, and it might be something that your audience is using and your audience is thinking about and talking about. Then something like that might be beneficial. Whereas if you're selling coffee and you use the hashtag coffee, that's going to get seen by potentially millions of people, or it's being used by millions of people. Whether or not yours will be seen within that flood of images is questionable. So just think about that. And there are tools like allhashtag.com that can help develop some of those hashtags. Think about what hashtags you could be using, as well as so if you're using scheduling software that I'll talk about later as well, they often have hashtag generating tools available for you as well. So Instagram feed versus stories. So again, this is something we mentioned in the photography webinar, but it's a good thing to reiterate, is that when it comes to your feed on Instagram, and your stories, they're really two different mediums almost, where your feed, because it's permanent, should be where you post the really good looking photos. That's your kind of going out look, you're professional. That's what the public sees. And you want to keep that consistency and that brand story, because that's staying there. Whereas stories, you can have a little bit more fun. They're more lighthearted. They're best for showing more of the behind the scenes realness kind of thing. They only last for 24 hours. And the thing with stories is that you can add a lot of different photos, video clips, plus you could do text and graphics, design animations and filters and all kinds of fun things that don't necessarily translate to your feed. So, we often recommend like avoiding wordy graphics for in your Instagram feed. Save the graphics and the text or save the text for the description, and put your wordy graphics in the stories. You're more likely to kind of have people read it in that context. Excuse me. So someone asked actually do you suggest using hashtags in your bio? I mean, again, I think it sort of depends on the audience, but not necessarily. I don't think it really makes it's not going to necessarily get you in front of more people. And ultimately that's the goal. I mean, a hashtag in your bio would allow people to click out to see other hashtags or other uses of that hashtag, other photos that have been tagged. And therefore it's taking people away from your bio. So, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it unless it was just like a very maybe industry specific or local specific, or actually if it's a hashtag that you have developed and it's like all of your content, then that would make the most sense. And actually, yeah, so just on that point too, if you develop your own hashtag, I mean, that could be another good use of hashtags where it's something very specific to your business, to a cause or something that you're doing. And the thing with that is that you want to try and promote that hashtag everywhere you can. So in that case, yeah, definitely put it in your bio. You want to put it on your website. You want to put it on your Facebook. Promote it, at every turn to encourage people to use it. So once, going back to stories, once you've created a series of stories, you've had them, they only, again, last for 24 hours, but they are stored within your account. So what you can do then with your stories is create highlights. So highlights are stories that you can add to your profile. And here's an example just of how they look at the top. And again, you can really customize them with lots of text and graphics. But the great thing is, it's a perfect way to feature specific products, product lines, or services in a way almost like a website. So you can really categorize them. When people go to your profile, they'll see sort of exactly the services or the products or product lines that you offer. And it's a really great way to just give that snapshot of what it is that you offer, and also link out potentially to how people can buy those products or services. So I did mention a little bit about scheduling. This can definitely make life a lot easier. I will point out that Facebook does have the ability to schedule posts in advance. But then there's some other third-party platforms that can offer these tools as well. So the reason that you would do this is, if you plan out your month, let's say, of content and write all the descriptions and do all the, all the design and everything, and just schedule them out so that you have some consistency. You've put planning into your brand story and your messaging. It's a great place to plan out any promotions or events that you're going to be doing. You know, it just makes your life easier, because I think finding the time to manage your social media accounts is probably one of the biggest drawbacks, or the biggest barriers when business owners are trying to do it all, right? And again, that's why I'm only talking specifically about Facebook and Instagram, because I know that most of you, your plate is full, and you know, if we can focus on just the minimum for now, and then I would suggest, you know, once you have mastered, or you know, you've got your accounts up and running, and you know, with these types of software, you can do that. You can have everything scheduled. Once you get in that groove, then I would suggest, okay, are there other platforms that are an option? Is, you know, would Twitter be something useful? Would LinkedIn, would TikTok, I don't know, whatever the kids are on. But I always tell people, like, until you get the basics like solid and performing, then you might just be wasting your time. So here are some great options. A lot of them will offer like a free version, or you can upgrade to add more profiles and get more features. But so far I've been using Later, and been having some pretty good success with that in scheduling different Instagram photos, and getting all of my social media kind of lined up in advance. Right, so someone just asked, or they made a comment, I use Later and it doesn't post automatically, it prompts me with a notification to my phone. There is a way around that. So when I was talking about the Instagram business account, that is a feature that needs to be enabled for Later, and I think all other scheduling software, to gain that access that they need to schedule those without having to go on your phone and approve everything and jump through those hoops. So check that out. That's probably what's the problem with your account. And so just to keep the resources coming, I will give a shout out to Camp Tech. So Camp Tech is the official training partner of Digital Main Street. And we had the pleasure of hosting them back in last summer. They presented some social media and SEO sessions, training workshops as well. And so they left behind this PDF that I want to share as well. So again, there's going to be lots of information and resources on targeting audiences, content ideas, tools, etiquette and rules of engagement, management tools, measurement, and platform overviews. So just a ton of information. And they do go into more depth and detail into other platforms as well. So they look at Twitter and Pinterest and LinkedIn and YouTube as well. So if you're considering any of those platforms, definitely check out this resource guide. It's going to give you a breakdown of sort of the pros and cons of those different platforms, and to give you an idea of, should I be pursuing this platform for my business. And then finally, just a reminder that the Digital Main Street platform at digitalmainstreet.ca is still available. It's still, you're able to register for free and access about 8 to 10 hours of training resources, and lots more information. If continuing your digital marketing training is on your to-do list, this is another great place to find more information. And that's it for me. Are there any additional questions? I know I kind of answered a few on the fly. I didn't want to get too far behind, but if you do have any questions, drop them in the chat box, and we'll answer them as they come in. Otherwise, again, my email is always open, digitalmainst@collingwood.ca, and always available. Well, available until the end of May for additional consultation support. And here we go. We got a couple of questions coming in. So Valerie asks, any recommendations for proper layout of texting Instagram posts? I'm not sure if I understand the question, or I guess of just laying out your Instagram feed. We did a photography workshop 2 weeks ago. To talk about this a little bit, in that you know, consistency is the most important thing, and professional photos, and yeah, just making sure that that brand message is consistent, and nothing really jumps out as not quite fitting. And that's one of the benefits of scheduling software, is that you can often get a look at how your feed is going to appear, so that you can pinpoint anything that kind of stands out as not fitting with the rest of it. So Kelly asks about templates and tabs in Facebook. I see how you can reorder them, but how can I delete one of them? So it should be, some of them I think you might not be able to delete. I think there are some that, like posts, for example, I think those are by default always there. But there should be, I think, in the settings, I can take a look at that. I can't think off the top of my head, and I don't necessarily want to pull it up. But yeah, it should be, there should be a button on the side that will allow you to open up more options, and then down at the bottom you can remove it from there. Oh, okay. So Valerie just clarified on the question about text in Instagram posts. So in line breaks. Yeah, I mean, there's probably different schools of thought on this. I mean, I've seen a lot of people that just go on and on. I do know that, I mean, well, like, speaking from experience, I think if you have something important to say, I mean, people are going to read it. If it's engaging, if it's personal, you know, a lot of people will connect with that and appreciate that. I would say if you do like a line break, really, I mean, consider just how much space you can actually see when people see your posts in their from their home feed. It's not very many lines, so keep that in mind. You can also do, if you are running on long, or if you want to add like a bulk of hashtags, yeah, I do sometimes push them down so that they don't kind of interfere with the description. But you can also do a first comment. So again, when I use later, there's an option to, when you do a post, you can add the description. You can also add a first comment. And a lot of people will put their bulk of hashtags into that first comment, which can just kind of keep that description a lot cleaner, right? So that you don't have to do those line breaks, and it still works in the same way. Right, so timing of Instagram posts is a popular question. A lot of people ask this, and it really always depends on a lot of different factors: your industry, your audience, and Candace, you mentioned that you are using Later, and I do know that. So it might take a while to build up the data, but Later does have an option to automatically schedule, or it'll give you the best time, and it's based on results from previous posts. But I think it takes a while for them to build up that data. So that's just another benefit to scheduling software, is that a lot of them will incorporate that information, even in some of them in more general terms, but others in actual specifics on when your posts have received the most engagement with your audience, which is kind of the best way to do that, in my opinion. Yeah, Susan asked about video. It is advantageous across all platforms, and do you have any tips? I have a ton of tips. Thank you for asking. And actually, our next webinar on the 28th is specifically about video for social media, because it is such a big topic. So right now, I mean, I will say, yeah, absolutely. Like, specifically with Instagram, you know, vertical video is a better option. If you post to your feed, make sure that you select a thumbnail, because if you have like a black frame at the beginning, it will just show up in your feed as just a black box. And that's just doesn't give the best impression of what people can expect when they watch the video. So it's a really easy thing to do when you upload or post a video to Instagram, to select that thumbnail, so that it's not something that's either awkward looking, you know, it's always a weird face that someone's making, but you can customize that so that it's more appropriate. People can see what the video is about. Captions are really important. And Facebook has a pretty awesome tool for automatically generating captions. So I'm going to look at that in the next webinar as well. Because it used to be that you'd have to upload an actual file that you've typed out with all the words and the timing, but they've been perfecting that automatic generation tool, and it works great. Alaya asks, will you be doing a webinar on YouTube? I will include more information. I won't just be speaking specifically about Instagram and Facebook for the video one. We're going to kind of talk about in general, and definitely YouTube being a video specific platform. We'll talk a lot about that and how you can make the most of your channel and your video content, because yeah, right now video content is where it's at, and it's really important to stay connected with your customers. I think that looks like the last of the questions, and we're basically right on time. So with that, I will just, I'm going to share, I want to share the webinar link for the next event in case anyone is interested in registering. It is again on Tuesday, Tuesday the 28th at 10 a.m. And we're going to talk all about video for social media, including YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, lots of great information and tips, not only about how to post it and what to do with the video, but how to shoot it actually. Sending it to everyone here. There we go. There's the link in the chat to register for that next webinar coming up. So be sure to put your name on the list, and we will see you then. So thanks again, everybody, for joining. And if you have any questions at all, definitely feel free to reach out. We're also doing a Tuesday live video series on the Small Business Enterprise Center Facebook page. So be sure to tune in for that. And we will see you all very soon. So hope that was helpful. Well, take care.